Hello, everybody. I've had fun with this one this week, and it's what is the ego? And so some of this is going to kind of give us the foundation for why we're even doing the mind training. Like, what is the point of this? Because it does appear to be difficult at times, real difficult. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the foundations of A Course in Miracles that kind of support a different definition of many things. Because with this foundation, it really is quantum. Jesus in A Course in Miracles is really talking about how to think quantumly. I just want to say, can you hear the music in the background right now? Great. It's very loud. I can hardly hear. As long as you can't hear it, it's fine. So, we had this tiny mad idea. And this is how it all started. So, and I'm going to pull on a little bit of Urantia, the book called Urantia, because I read that and it gives some interesting background about Jesus and things like that. I don't recommend you read it. It's a very wordy text, and it takes a lot to get through it. But in there, it talks a little bit about the concept of free will that Jesus talks about in A Course in Miracles. So at some point, when we were just the loving thought in the mind of God, just hanging out, having fun, being happy, not a care in the world. And then all of a sudden, there was a proposition that we could go somewhere and challenge ourselves. And so we thought, okay, I'll go ahead and be born into the world and take on some of these challenges. Because really, everything in this linear existence is just a lesson we would learn. That's all it is. And it's kind of like we were given at birth some reality glasses, we put the virtual reality glasses on, and it's basically a test, a challenge for us to learn everything differently. And that's what we've been working on. And some of us finally made it to A Course in Miracles, and many of us are getting this. And it's really the only free choice we have in this world called A Course in Miracles, Jesus's world, is I'm either going to love something or I'm going to make it wrong and fear it. Two choices. And so, it seems kind of silly to call it even free choice because, and this has been my own experience, when I haven't loved and when I have chosen to judge or want something my way, I have suffered greatly. So I don't see that as a viable choice. So the mind training is showing me how to think only through love. And basically at birth, we're given something called ego. And the ego was a small mind, okay? It was the tiny mad idea that forgot to laugh, according to how Jesus puts it in the book. We have these tiny mad ideas and we forget to laugh at them, like they're meaningless. But we think there's something, like do it my way. This would be a better way to do this. if only they would listen to me, the world would work better, just using some of my favorites. And so it's really about going against this idea that I have any choice in anything, and really giving into, surrendering into, I want to see everything through love only, period. No exceptions. That's just the way I want to live my life. And that is the mind training. And then everything else that Jesus talks about in A Course in Miracles is just how to do this, how to go about and do this. And I'm not going to talk about it today, but I'm going to mention it. Lojong. I was just introduced to Tibetan Buddhism has a mind training, and it's called Lojong. And I've been really reading a lot about it. And all I can say is it's fascinating to read just another perspective on mind training. It's the same thing. And I do think Jesus simplified it with A Course in Miracles. And then it's even being more simplified as we go through this, as more people use it and can assist others through the minefield of, okay, do I want to judge this? Do I want to have an opinion about this? Or do I want to just love? Okay, because that's really, as we're going through our days, that is the mind training. That is what we're doing. So everything is going through this filter of, I have a choice to use my small ego mind or love. There was, I've heard this several times. I didn't just hear this once, but people say, well, you can't kill off the ego. No, the ego was given to us at birth. And then as soon as we come out and take our first breath, the comments are, it's a girl. What's her name? What's his name? And then we have these identities develop. And with these identities, we think they're real. We forget that we are just a loving thought in the mind of God. And we have these identities that we need to protect and perfect, make better, change, and that's part of the tiny mad idea. No, we're perfect. We forgot our perfection. And so this world, this virtual reality that we're living in right now, called ego vision, it's for us to go back and remember that we're still the loving thought in the mind of God. And everything else is breaking away from that. And so it's kind of remembering who we really are. So let me just start in, and I'll add more as we go through this. Okay, I love Jesus. Oh, for so many different reasons. But the first two paragraphs start with these very short sentences. The ego is idolatry. The ego is insane. Okay, that's pretty much what is the ego? There we go. It's idolatry and it's insane. And it's this idea that we could do it better, that we've got it. I've got a great idea. I don't know how many times I've heard myself say that in my lifetime. I've got a great idea. It's like, oh my God, give it up. Just watch the movie. I mean, I can hear Holy Spirit. I have this joke. Holy Spirit's sitting next to me in the movie theater, and the movie theater's playing Ego Vision, And throughout the movie, I'm going, oh, I bet, we could do it better. And Holy Spirit's sitting there going, settle down. Just settle down, honey. It's a movie. Let's just see what happens. Let's just be passersby. Let's observe and not try and change, fix, or alter, because you can't. It's the screen. I mean, there was a couple of people this past week that were, in the US, the country that I opted to be born in, has this big election coming up. And there's a lot of strong feelings about it. One's good and the other's less good. And, the reality is it's going to turn out however it's going to turn out. So me having strong feelings about anything to do with it has no impact whatsoever. None. And so it's really for me to sit back with Holy Spirit and go, honey, this is already played out. Not like you have any choice in the matter at all. So just watch it as a mind training opportunity to see how far you can get without making a judgment about it. And that's really what I've been telling most people that come to me. It's like, it's going to play out how it's going to play out. Just don't get caught up in it. And I remember I had very strong feelings politically at one point in my life. Oh, you can see I still need to do forgiveness, because as soon as I said that, I went, oh my God, if you only knew. Well, the reality is I had very strong political feelings, and I wanted to tell everybody about them, and did on a regular basis, which made me a real party pleaser. But the reality is, at this point in my life, because I've been doing mind training for the past 10 years, I don't care who wins. It doesn't matter. They're both into it to correct a system that they see as broken. I see it as a system that's perfect exactly as it is. So that's the ego. The ego says, oh, this is broken. We've got to fix it. The mind of God that I came from, because I'm still a loving thought in the mind of God, just observes it. And so I've got Holy Spirit watching this movie with me. It's like, sit down, Calico, just sit down. Don't get riled up. It's not a big deal. And it's on everything. It's not just politics, it's everything. So anyway, back to the reading. So the ego is idolatry, the sign of limited and separated self, born in a body, doomed to suffer and to end its life and death. Wow, Jesus doesn't mince words. The ego is a sign of limited and separate self, born in a body, doomed to suffer and end its life in death. And I remind people that, say, well, you don't want to kill off the ego. You can't kill off the ego. Well, let's just look at the ego is a sign of limited and separated self, born in a body, doomed to suffer and end its life in death. I don't know. Doesn't sound like I want to make real close friends with the ego. Okay, so I have this ability to think through this small mind called ego, but I choose, my free will, I choose not to. And so that takes me in a whole different direction. The ego is insane. In fear, it stands beyond, that everywhere, apart from all, in separation from the infinite. Whoa, just, here we're talking about coming together in one mind, and the ego is insane. In fear, it stands beyond everywhere, apart from all, in separation from the infinite. In its insanity, it thinks it has become a victor over God himself. See, again, I came from being a loving thought in the mind of God, and now I'm thrown into this virtual reality game called ego. And I'm saying to God, oh, God, no, wait, I've got a great idea. Do it my way. Vote for this candidate or vote for this candidate. And it's just, I want to win over God. I want to win over God. And this is all going to play out however it's going to play out. And it's just to relax with Holy Spirit sitting next to you saying, honey, it's a movie. If you need a break, take the glasses off, take a nap. Okay. The Son of God is egoless. Now, this is, I hadn't seen this before. So we don't even have an ego. It's just we've been well trained in egoic thinking, small-minded thinking, because from birth on, we're set to limitation. It's a girl. This is her name. She looks like this. She could look like this, which would be better than looking like this, or whatever. You know, black better than white, whatever. So basically, the Son of God is actually egoless. That was the pre-birth state. And we still have that available to us. And the mind training is just helping us take us back to the state of being a loving thought in the mind of God, while still playing out this virtual reality game called ego. And so every time our mind comes up and wants to judge something or correct something or change something, it's for me to make the choice of, nope, that's not the point of this game called life. The game called life is just to love. And if there's someone suffering, I'll just love them. I'll just love them. Okay, the Son of God is egoless. What can he know of madness and death of God when he abides in God? What can he know of sorrow, of suffering, when he lives in eternal joy? That was our pre-birth state, eternal joy. And so we're just struggling to figure it back out. It's like, wow, I'm not feeling eternal joy. I can't tell you how many times. You know, when I got the cancer diagnosis, believe me, I wasn't sitting there listening to this message going, oh, I'm in eternal joy. No, I had to work through a few things. That's where the mind training comes in. And it feels like it's never going to end. Okay, I'll just give you the hint. I felt that many times. But the reality is my commitment is pure, because I get the only reason I'm even here in this life is to learn how to love. So I'm going to give it everything I've got, as I know you guys want to do the same thing. And no thought is too small to give it everything you've got. To know reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts. You know, watch your thoughts like a hawk. To know reality is not to see the ego and its thought. So the ego has separate thoughts than me, and me as the loving thought in the mind of God. It works, it acts, its laws, its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans. All these are ego thoughts. In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense that crucifixion of the Son of God is offered daily at its darkened shrine, and blood must flow before the altar where its sickly followers prepare to die. This is Jesus telling us who we are in this fragment of time that we find ourselves. I'm just going to, you know, this is Jesus. These are not my words, but Jesus did a pretty good job of it. So in this world we call life, in suffering, and this is not just pain of the body, but it can include pain of the body. It's anything that you don't like the way it is, okay? In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense that crucifixion of the Son of God is offered daily at its darkened shrine, and blood must flow before the altar where its sickly followers prepare to die. And I need to say, this is, boy, it certainly was for me. I was raised a Catholic, okay? Can't change that. That water under the bridge now. But it really put a huge, I mean, I remember all the crucifix. My father was Irish Catholic, and my father had all these crucifixes around the house, and they were all bleeding. They were suffering. That's what I made it mean. I'd look at one of these crucifixes and I go, doesn't look like he's having a good time. Well, that's how I saw life. I interpreted to mean this is the way life goes, unless you're Jesus, and somehow he still died miserably, you know? But then I made the Romans wrong, and, you know, and my mind kept splitting off. But here's the point. The crucifixion is not, oh, what was that? I didn't even watch it because I knew it was, oh, anyway, there was a movie just on the whole crucifixion. And the reality is it was grisly, it was gruesome, and most people focus on that, how horrible it was, because that's how we interpret life, how horrible it is, how horrible it is. And we can point to specifics in our storyline. And the reality is, no, the focus needs to be on the resurrection, because every time we choose to love rather than to judge, we're lifting ourselves out of that egoic mind. And we're just sitting back quietly in the chair, holding Holy Spirit's hand, going, oh, it's all perfect. It's all perfect. Yet will only one lily of forgiveness change the darkness into light. I love that. Yet will one lily of forgiveness change the darkness into light, the altar to illusions to the shrine of life itself, and peace will be restored forever to the holy minds which God created as his son, his dwelling place, his joy, his love, completely his, completely one with him. So we return with the mind training, we return to the being the loving thought in the mind of God. That's why we're doing mind training. Because when we're coming from our loving thought in the mind of God, we're joyous, we're happy, we're not concerned about anything. We can remember to laugh. We don't take any of it too heavily. But when we're in this small egoic mind that isn't even a part of us, Jesus just says here, it's egoless. But we learned how to use it. I certainly did from birth on. I wasn't good enough. So that's why I had every self-help book on the market at any given time I purchased, because I needed to make myself better. I wasn't good enough. And so my eyes were always looking to how to make myself better. And I constantly work with this, with the mind training too, because the mind training is not about making me better. The mind training is about being at peace with whatever is. I know there was someone was around here at Namaste was recently talking about all these miracles he was experiencing. People were giving him money and this, that, and the other. And that's not a miracle. We're going to talk about that at some point. That's not a miracle. Miracles are not being given gifts. And I know this for my life, because what I couldn't understand is, how come I can't maintain peace? You know, like sometimes life is good, and then sometimes life is not so good. Good, not so good. Good, not so good. And it was one of these. There was no consistency in my thinking. And that's because I was looking at things like, oh, someone gave me a gift. Someone gave me some money. And I was seeing that as a miracle. No, miracles are changing my mind that nothing needs to be changed. And this is where, fear of not having enough money, fear of not being healthy, fear of whatever is that we're not seeing that And Jesus tells us throughout A Course in Miracles, whatever we're needing, it will be provided. Whatever we're needing, it will be provided. And we forget this on a regular basis. I forget this on a regular basis. Not so much anymore. I'm getting better at just holding that truth that I can't run out of money. Even though I don't think I have any at times, I'll be given whatever it is that I need. So with that being said, this is the ego that we want to do the mind training on, so that we're remembering that, no, I'm a thought in the mind of love. And that's really the only thing I want to hold in my mind. I call it, don't get one thought away from God. So God is love. Try not to get one thought away from it, because as soon as you start, feeding the ego, oh, I don't have enough money, and you don't stop it and correct it immediately, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger every time it loops through. So it's my commitment to see everything through love, to stop those looping thoughts and say, no, I am not going to do this. I'm not going to allow myself to bite the bait again. I'm going to stay with God, love, just love. If someone's having a hard time, I can go and console them and say, I really just love you. And I'll say some prayers on your behalf. Not that that will mean anything, but my prayers are really that they can find peace in whatever storyline they're having, because it's a lesson they would learn. So why would I interfere on their lessons when I've got my lessons to correct? Okay, so with that being said, we're going to say goodbye to our YouTube friends. Goodbye, all you YouTube friends. And hang on here. There.